shot at a time.
Welcome back to the Enjoy the Walk podcast. Dante, we're continuing our bag week this week, but this one hits a little bit on the different side of, the typical definition of bag this time around.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've got Nate Parry and a very special caddy, which we'll get into here in a little bit, Lane, and how we know Nate, and I'm sure for all of the followers who have been with us from the beginning, have seen our interactions with the bag tour and what they've got going down there in North Carolina and South Carolina. So we're happy to be a sponsor of Nate through hopefully what gets some wins on the board here coming up in the next few months. But happy to have you guys on, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be on, man. Looking forward to it. Zane Lewis tomorrow, Holly Ridge Golf Links in High Point. We're looking forward to it.
That's fantastic. Now, for those who don't follow the bag tour, Zane's kind of been on a tear so far here in 2019 or in 2020. So are you pumped to have a shot at the 1 seed?
I'm not going to lie to you. I honestly feel bad for him a little bit.
Ooh.
I was looking at the bracket, and I saw that they had me with him first. And I just thought that was a little bit unfair. I feel
so
like
you're saying it's going to be a short week and a short stay for him on that bracket, huh?
we might only get through 9 holes. That's all.
Ooh.
Woo! He might get the Stephen Ames treatment. That's dirty.
Yeah.
Not me, baby.
No, but Zane's an awesome player. This is not the first time we've played. He went to NC Central, and that's right next to Duke, and they actually use Duke as their home course. So I've known Zane for a while, and he worked maintenance at Duke for a while. So, I mean, he's a great guy, and he brings the bag tour a lot. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Now, have you played much on the bag tour to date? And is this kind of one of the first tournaments per se or matches for you in 2020?
Yeah, this is my debut tomorrow. So I got Andy's information, the guy who runs it, probably a month and a half ago. Probably like right before this Corona stuff started, honestly. And we had, he linked me up with you guys, and he linked me up with a couple other guys, and we actually had a match planned at Duke, like right before we closed down shop. So now the stuff's cooled off, and I kind of know what's on limit. I'm really looking forward to getting out there with those boys because it's long overdue.
No, that's awesome. And, like you mentioned, we kind of picked you up right as this craziness started. So it's nice to see you guys down in the Carolinas being able to play, and at least in a, reserve basis, but still get out there and play, whether it's pool noodles or not, in the cups. So excited to see you guys get back out there. And man, I'm just, us guys up north here, man, we're just chomping at the bit to get our clubs in on the golf course again. It's been
They're shutting down more stuff I'm in New Jersey, so like they shut down like all non-essentials, but they allowed, and then for some reason they shut down golf courses, and then they left like just recreational parks open, and like dog parks and walk parks and trails and all that. Now they're shutting that down, which kind of blows my mind how golf courses is not considered that. But that's a different story. But yeah, we're itching. We're dying. I might have to just hop in the car and just disappear for a couple months.
Everything's closed down, like every golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. It's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So
send help to us guys up here north. I mean,
luckily, like in my neighborhood, I have about 100 yards to play with worth of grass, and it's pretty fairly open. So I just been going like hitting like 50, 70, 80, 90, maybe even 100-yard shots just into this. Like someone put a flagpole into the ground. So I just been doing that. That's the only actual golf I've been getting, unless I'm playing video games. That's literally so. So when I
see those guys in the cities with their urban golf, Dante and I, especially, and anyone else really in Maryland or New Jersey and Pennsylvania, we've started this kind of ghetto golf where we've set up our own golf courses in the backyards, and it's the best of what we can do with for right now.
I mean, look, for putting, for those who aren't watching, sorry for the listeners that aren't watching, I have.
Oh, let's go.
If you can see, I have a little.
Is that inspired by Paige Sprannick?
It is. I have a little yardstick roller here. I got my putters over there, and that's like the only actual putting that I've been getting in.
That is beautiful.
For the time being. So I'll do that in the morning, just messing around, or and then like my TV's like right here. So if I'm watching like golf or something, reruns of the Masters, I'll just sit there and just hit putts for a good, like maybe 15 minutes. And then
Now,
I'll just.
speaking of good setups here in the quarantine, Nate, I saw you've posted and put it on a highlight on your Instagram page too. You've got a pretty sick setup yourself. Talk us through what you got going on with all of this madness indoors.
Q-teen mode. So what happened was I live by myself, and I do a one-person apartment, one bedroom, one bathroom. As soon as you walk in, it's like pretty open. I can show you guys if you want. Yeah.
I mean, it makes for phenomenally great YouTube content, and we apologize to the podcast listeners, but we're just go check out our YouTube page. Shout out to the Game of Golf T-shirt he's rocking right now, because guys, check that out on the store. He's showing off some great Enjoy the Walk product right now. This is really great for business on the YouTube side of things.
You walk into, okay? We got a nice little teaching tee here. This is what I call the lesson tee. We got a yoga mat to kind of level it out. You can't be standing on the regular hardwood floors when you got a tee elevated probably like an inch and a half, okay?
No doubt.
Nonsense. We got a Max Fly net here to catch the dukes I'm sending.
Well, and the target is high quality, and something a lot of people miss. You got to still have still focus on that alignment while you're indoors, and practice some some bombing indoors.
The lady below me wouldn't be really happy if I was taking full cuts up here, so I'm not taking like big divots or anything. But what I'll do is I'll set up to it. I got these like foam balls. I'm sure you guys are familiar with these. This is Dick's Sporting Goods curbside pickup right here.
Nice.
Balls. I'll set up. You can go down the line here.
For those of you who are listening on the podcast, please go to our YouTube page. We're just kind of going through the ins and outs of these quarantine setups that Dante and Nate and myself all have set up, and hopefully it can help inspire you guys to get out there and set up your own indoor facilities and take some cuts in the.
So all you really need is this isn't a big room. All you need is to be able to take it back and not hit a ceiling fan or something. Like, you're not going to be sending like actual golf balls into the net. I'm just hitting. So what I'll do is I've been doing like online lesson videos because we're kind of out of work right now. And I got students that like have been coming to me routinely throughout the year, and then all of a sudden, boom, you can't be within 6 feet of someone. It's like
that takes the on-hands lessons and basically says sayonara for a little while.
Yeah, it's like it sucks for me because like I want to keep teaching, and it sucks for them because they're like, well, what's my direction? Like I need to see my swing coach. So I've been doing these like live videos with them, and I'll post up like right there where Lane's stands, and then I'll either show them something here with I'll focus on the takeaway, but I'm not going to take full cuts. I'll kind of just slow-mo, see what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, and which we've kind of like talked about as well. It's like, you can actually probably work on a little more and really get some muscle memory figured out by taking things slower and really just working on positions. And that's almost probably the best way to work indoors rather than just still trying to take full cuts like you would be outdoors.
Yeah, I'll do mostly during quarantine fitness, to be honest. Like, if all else fails, the last bottom line I want you to know as my student is we're going to hit the ground running as soon as this thing's over. So fitness is number one. So I'll do a couple little circuits that I like them to do. You can do it in your living room, wherever. But then if we're talking swing, I'll do the P system, just some checkpoints, certain spots in the takeaway that I want them to be aware of. But
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of the way like I was always taught the game growing up, and it was always like spots on the clock. Like, what spot are you checking? Whether it's takeaway and you're checking 6 o'clock, or you're checking 3 o'clock, and then you're checking 7 o'clock or whatever, and it's just spots on the clock of vital positions in the golf swing. And if you're good at spot A and good at spot B, and then basically it's just dropping the hands down the slot from there. So it doesn't have to be so complicated to make improvements in the game.
Drop in the slot and rotate. Gankus, baby.
We're going to get into that a little later. You know that. But yeah, so take us through. Let's start from the beginning, from the bottom and work our way to the top. How have you, kind of taken your love for the game and gotten into the teaching side of things, and where did the love for the game kind of start for you?
So I was a really big basketball player as a young kid. My dad played basketball. So probably from 4 years old to 14, I played really competitive basketball. And then I think 2011, so I was like 13. It was Father's Day, and I got my dad an inflatable kayak. And that did not work out. We pumped it up, and there was a hole somewhere we couldn't find, but we couldn't get it going. So I was like, well, what do you want to do? It's your day. Like, let's go. And he's like, well, let's go hit balls at the local driving range. I actually live right next to where it used to be. It closed down, but we went and slapped it around, and I was like, is this like something I can do? Like any day? Like, this is sick. Like, I love this. And he's like, yeah. So I got a junior membership at the UNC course, Finley, which was right next to my house. And, my dad wanted me to prove to him that I could like work at it for more than a year to pay for it. But I proved to him that I really liked it. And I met some really, really cool guys. Ben Griffin, who won on the Mackenzie Tour, and he's trying to get on the Corn Ferry now. He's one of my best buddies to date, and he taught me everything I know. I met him out there. He played for UNC. But that was like probably the big starting point for me.
Well, that's huge, because when you find someone who's playing at that level kind of so early, when you pick it up, yourself, you kind of start to see the inside access of how to grind and really make it, because those guys at that level are truly treating it like a job. They're not treating it like a recreation that they just, like you said earlier, kind of just go play with your father on a Father's Day basis. They're treating it like they're prepping to make a 40-hour, 50, 60-hour a week dedication to it, if not more, with gym time, golf time, and everything. So that's really neat to see that like you've kind of had that inspiration from the jump, and it kind of shows in why you're so dedicated to this day.
Yeah, had it early for sure. I was like 13, and I was going out there like, oh, like I hit a fairway, like let's go. And I'm like, oh, I'm leaving at dark, like yeah, I'm grinding, And then I walk off, and he's on the putting green, and he's been there for like 10 hours.
Yeah, there's those folks that leave at dark, and then there's the folks that turn on the car lights at dark and grind until they get it right.
Yep. And that was a really important lesson to learn early, and that's where I started seeing results, was when I started actually implementing that myself.
Sure. So you started at 13 and kind of saw results early, I'm guessing. How did that lead into college golf, and where did you play your college golf, and how did that decision to wherever you wanted to play kind of take place?
Yeah. So actually, it was interesting. I didn't play college golf. So I started when I was 13, until I was about 17. I kind of was just on my high school team. I played all the time, but I didn't really know how to practice. Like I played and practiced, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have a swing coach. I didn't really do anything except put in the hours, but I didn't know what actually needed to go into those hours. So I really wasn't good enough. I really, really wanted to go to Appalachian State, and that's where I spent my first 3 years of college. But I didn't play there. I talked to the coach. He said I could be a walk-on. So I was like, all right. But then after weighing it, I was like, I'd rather probably just focus on being a student, have fun, and really focus on everything else. But then spending like 2 or 3 years in college and not grinding golf is what like really had me missing golf a lot. So I came back to it, and I transferred to NC State. And now I'm finishing up, and I'm really focusing on the teaching side to kind of expand my knowledge of the game, instead of just like blindly putting in hours. Like, okay, what do I need to put into these hours?
And that's such a great kind of angle in which like I even realized after college when I went home for a little bit and started teaching the junior program at my local public course was, you get so much more out of understanding the game when you tell other people how to do it. You kind of are constantly fed the information of, oh yeah, I should be doing that, and I'm probably not doing that in my own swing. And you see so many ways to get a golf swing improved that it does filter into your own knowledge and really build that base to kind of go back to your own swing and say, all right, like that's what I can work on today.
Yeah. And probably like the clear, in terms of like me now, like I'm a professional. So it's like people see my Instagram, or they like know me, and they've now I've been golfing for so long. They're like, well, how are you a professional and you didn't even play college golf? Well, that's an interesting question. Last year, I think like when it was like when I broke my shoulder.
Oh, and you broke your shoulder. So you had the broken shoulder on spring break. It was January,
like
February.
Yeah, it was like around this time.
So you broke it
last year.
Snowboarding, so it had to be cold.
Yeah. So up in App, we have really good slopes. So I had to send it. Right. So
Always send it. Are you silly?
It was a really icy day, and I was hitting the park, and I got screwed up and broke my left shoulder, the lead shoulder, tough. And then I was out of it for like 6 to 8 weeks. And like I wasn't even grinding golf then, but just like someone telling me like you can't play golf for 6 to 8 weeks, I was like, I really took it as I was like, damn, like this is really like actually what I want to do. Like this is what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. Like I can't imagine doing anything else.
It's amazing too. Like, and I know yours was in the colder months, and I had a similar injury 2 years ago that also put that same perspective in there. It was kind of like mid to end of summer. And I tried to, be ballsy on the golf course and make this hero golf shot, and ended up clipping a tree really hard on the follow through and just jacking up my wrist. And it was kind of the same deal, 6 to 8 weeks, had to put down the clubs, missed a lot of like inner club matches in the fall, the club championship. I missed a lot of like good tournament golf, and it put it in my perspective from there. I'm like, I'm never missing golf like this ever again. Like it can't happen. It has to be part of my life. I can't have this gap. And it's amazing how something like that, when it's taken away from you, you automatically realize, damn, I need it. I don't just want to play it. I need it.
You're preaching to the choir right now.
Yeah.
And we've all had injuries, but like in some way, shape, or form that's brought us to golf.
When you guys sent me this shirt, and there's like a little note in there that was kind of like your blurb on how like similar golf is to life. That really like struck with me, because I was like, that's like kind of the revelation I had during that injury. I was like, well, you get a setback, and then you look at it, you evaluate your priorities, and you're like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing now. And you put your head down and you grind it out. Like that was my take on it. So that was cool.
It's crazy too, because like you can see golf as just the acronym as game of life if you were to just throw like the rest of the letters in there. And it's kind of crazy, because going off what you're saying, and it is the game of life, because even when you're out playing, it's the same thing as life, because you can hit a good shot and get a bad break, and you can hit a bad shot and get a good break. It's the same thing, that you're just walking through the path of life and end up, you run into these bumps in the road, and then you just you find a way on how to get it done, or like even on the course, it's like, how do I make the best scenario out of this worst situation, and back and forth. aspect of that. So I think that's what sticks with me too, is it really is the game. Golf is the game of life. It's just hands down.
Lane loves getting good breaks, the stupidest breaks.
Yeah. It's the good.
I don't know.
Hits it into the woods. It rocks a tree and comes right back in the fairway.
He loves hitting fades that don't fade.
I was telling him today, I was like, man, if I can stop hitting these fades that don't fade and these draws that don't draw, I'll be playing pretty good.
Boy, if that ain't a story of life, that's for sure.
Pop right out to the damn middle of the fairway.
Now,
Oh,
I
man.
don't think we introduced Lane on the podcast yet. Lane Blalock, Nate's caddy, right-hand man, also happy to join us this evening. So let's get into that a little bit. What events have you guys teamed up to, kind of be a part of together? And what has your competitive, maybe, I guess, resume looked like since, the last few years?
You want to take this one?
Yeah, I can.
All right.
Yeah, so I guess starting out, met each other through a mutual friend up at App. And obviously, I tell him all the time, it's kind of a funny story. So he goes by the nickname Natty P up at Appalachian. And so I like to tell the story. I have a mutual friend that he went to high school with, and I ended up becoming friends with his roommate. And so happened to be at a party one night, and I guess Nathan had gone there and seen Daniel. So Daniel brings him up to. He's like, Nathan, Lane, y'all both like golf, and just walked away. And then from there on, we started talking, and so I always pick on it. He was carrying a case of Natural Light. His name was Nathan Parry, so I was like, he's Natty P drinking some Natty Lights. And so
Boy, if that ain't just divine,
I guess
prophecy right there.
I guess that's the beer of choice up there.
That Bush Light, anything cheap, really.
Yeah, pretty much the college budget.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, Dalton and I went to the same school, so I don't know if he can.
I think we were more Bush Light, or we had that Pennsylvania Rolling Rock. Up
is that what we rock? Every party I went to was Keystone.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were a little
Kegs of
before my
Keystone.
time. You were a couple years ahead of me.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
true. So.
yeah. Appalachian's a lot of Bush Light and PBR.
Okay.
I can't go wrong with a little
We
blue ribbon.
we were the number one
It was like the fifth in the world for
PBR,
PBR.
sales.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, you guys put on a show out there then.
We try to do our duty.
We like to have a good time. To say
That's
the
fantastic. As do we. We love kicking it back as always.
Yeah, to kind of get back to your question, what was the first tournament we played in?
Carolina Mountain.
Yeah. Where was it? There's a couple mini tours this past summer. I'd say the first one was, I don't remember the course or the city, and somewhere outside of Greenville, South Carolina, probably. Somewhere around there. But it's one of those things. We played in the intramural tournaments up at App. Play a lot of golf together, and then it's kind of one of those things like, I want to play full time. We had, talked about our lives in golf and how they're related. We both kind of wanted the same thing out of.
Those are the best times talking about that stuff.
We both wanted the same thing out of golf for ourselves as each other. And it's interesting because we hate going to PGA Tour tournaments. It just pisses us off because we feel like we should be inside the ropes doing it. But we had Coastal Players tournament at Forest Oaks, and
We were actually paired with Zane both days.
yeah, in Greensboro,
Okay.
North Carolina.
Got him by one. So
That's great news for the match tomorrow. That's just great news.
Agtor, what's up?
But it was kind of one of those things that we teed it up, and nothing was forced. It was just kind of we were both going through it. I was caddying, and he was playing, and we just got into this mindset in this zone, and it took us. He was staying with me because I lived about 20 minutes from the course we had played at. And we were just driving home, and it was quiet. Then all of a sudden, we both just kind of snapped out of that mindset, and I was like, holy shit, like we can do this. Like we can do this.
Yeah, like that's the partnership. That's when it's so easy that you just don't even think about it. It just flows. You got something.
Absolutely.
It's like a caddy and player mentality is like a good pre-shot routine. If you're not thinking about it, then it's really good.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And like the fact that the PGA Tour is starting to mic up those like pre-shot actions, we need so much more of that, because that's where the magic happens. Yeah, the guys are making good swings, but it's like, yeah, they're talking all right, club up, is it into the wind? Where's the wind coming from? Should I really hit it that hard? Do I really need to hit it that hard? And sometimes the caddy's like, no, dumbass, club down or club up,
You got guys like Jordan Spieth who, I mean, with no mic, you look at it in the footage and you're like, man, this guy won't shut up to his caddy.
Yeah, he's nuts.
They're talking all the way until he hits the ball, and then they're talking immediately after that until the next tee. It's like, what are they talking about? And then there's guys like Kiz who will just like walk up to the ball and hit it without talking to his caddy.
I saw when they had the BMW at Aronimink a couple years ago, I went with a couple buddies of mine, and we were on this one tee. And speaking of Kiz, I guess it was it was college football time, so and it just shows his type of personality. And it was funny because he was just sitting there waiting. So he was paired up with DJ and Ian Poulter, and I guess he hit his shot, went up, teed up, hit, boom, went away, and then waited for the other guys. And while he was doing that, he just did not care, and he just pulled out his phone and was just literally watching Georgia just play football, and just like walked up the fairway, and him and DJ were just like looking at it, and it was just so cool. But it's like such a contrast between like different players, and how like Jordan Spieth is, I mean, he's like talking to himself 3 different ways, and to Greller, and as they're walking up, but like Kisner, he's like, all right, well, what's the score to the game?
Yeah, I mean, the more that light gets shined on Spieth being an absolute head case, the more you got to think Greller is an angel, like sent from God to deal with him for as long as he has.
I don't know if I can hang around this guy as much as Greller hangs around Spieth. That's for sure.
I'm telling you what, man, that man is a nutcase. But Lane, I got to ask you, and you can walk to the other room if you need to answer this, but has there been any times where you were thinking about just throwing the bag down and getting the hell out of there?
I don't know if I'd say throwing the bag down. It's one of those things. It's like, what's the best way to put it?
He's had to kick me in the crotch.
Yeah, there's a couple times. Well, first of all, I can be an asshole, and I know that. My friends tell me all the time I'm very blunt, very dry. And it just does not bother me to kind of tell somebody what I'm thinking.
That's why I picked him.
I was going to say, that's perfect caddy material if you ask.
Absolutely.
I remember we were playing a Carolina Mountain, I think it was, down at Furman, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And it's probably 12 or 13, somewhere around there. Double bogey, come to the next tee, and the whole time we're walking to the next tee, he's just in my ear about how he's not doing this, not doing that, blah blah blah. All these swing thoughts, feels, and so this had been 5 or 6 holes coming. I was like, dude, stop being a bitch and hit the ball. I just kind of kick him in the ass a little bit. Just be like, just go sling it. Stop thinking about stuff.
He's called me worse shit than that.
Yeah.
As sometimes you probably needed to be called, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, sometimes you need that little pump in the ass just to say, hey, you know what? Get your shit together. Start playing some golf like you know how to.
Just a little perspective, yeah. Because tournament golf, even competitive golf, like not in a tournament, like if you're playing a match with your buddy, like you can get in this little mental block where, it sucks. It happens to everyone where you're thinking way too much.
Yep.
So it really pays off to have someone like Lane right next to you to be like, cut the shit, dude. Just swing like you did 30 minutes ago.
And I think that's one of the benefits of being a caddy. And so far in my quote unquote caddy career, it's been a very short lived. It's pretty recent, but I'm like everybody. I also play, and so every time you step on the golf course, you want to play the perfect round, hit the perfect shot every single time. And so from a caddy, and also your player being someone that you play so much golf with, and you kind of know the ins and outs of their game, what they normally struggle with, what they're really good at. And so when you're on the bag, you can you're watching your player play all the time, hit every single shot. And so you know when there's really something wrong with the swing, and when it's between the ears. And so for me, it's been really rewarding, and I think it's helped his game, and not only and mine as well. Hearing him say it to me when I'm playing, I kind of think back, okay, like he's seen me play enough golf to know how my swing is, and that's when you know it's between the ears, and it's what you're thinking, not necessarily there's really something wrong with your swing. I think that's been the most beneficial part of being a caddy so far.
There's no doubt about that, and I think it's almost crucial to have played the game as long as you have, and to be as probably as good as you are, to be a caddy, because you know when to step in and you know the proper time to say, hey, let's actually give this one a go, and also the times to probably just put him in check and say, make your par and get out of here.
Absolutely, yeah. There's definitely those circumstances where it's just like a bad break. There's nothing you can really do about it, and that's not the time to step in and get on his butt about this and that. And there's also times that he's being so hard on himself. It's like, dude, you're not doing anything wrong. Let's just go play.
And it's like you said earlier. You said perfect. We all try and be perfect, and like I think every golfer, especially at the highest of levels, is so hard on themselves because they want perfection, and it's just never attainable in the game. That's what's so frustrating about it all the time. But that's what keeps us coming back.
We were having that conversation yesterday. We left the course, and I with my game, I've kind of gone through a slump, and I'm kind of coming on the uprise of it. He's helping me with a lot of stuff. And it's like, man, I'm hitting the ball so good, I'm just not scoring. Like, so frustrating. And it's golf, especially in all sports, really is chasing perfection in an imperfect game. It's the most frustrating thing.
It's also like a maturing process that we had to go through when we first so his first tournament caddying for me, we've known each other for a long time, but he had never caddied for me before. So that was different. But us then versus us now is not only giving me a yardage, but being able to tell oh, I know his thought process on this. I know what he's thinking right now.
Know your mannerisms, know how you're thinking, especially if you hit a bad shot too, and kind of just the right little, quips to say to get you back in the right mentality to hit a good shot following something that went wrong.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, no, that's what it's kind of worked the same way with Isaiah and I, who unfortunately couldn't join us tonight. But I caddied for him in a bunch of events, and it started with some Monday qualifiers when he was still in freshman year of college, actually, and he played a couple Mondays. We got really close, but we had this problem of closing, and sometimes I felt like it was my fault, and other times I felt like it was his fault, and it kind of went back and forth, and then it kind of led up to us. I went to school in the Scranton area, obviously with Dante, and the Pennsylvania Amateur actually was at Scranton Country Club, and I had played it a ton throughout college. It was one of our home courses, and Isaiah had qualified for it, and was like, hey man, it's your home course. Would you want to caddy for me again? And at this point, I'd probably maybe a handful of caddy times for him, not a lot, but we had just gotten past that weird awkward stage of just not truly knowing how to interact. And we went out that week, and he played some unbelievable golf, and he actually ended up winning it. And he, we both just kind of looked at each other and we're like, that's it. We've figured it out. And because even when we stepped on the first tee, we were kind of just joking around with each other. We had that comfort factor there. And it just as soon as he teed off and we walked down the first fairway, you could just tell something was different than the other 4 or 5 times I'd caddied for him in the past.
Yeah, the comfort's probably the biggest thing. And that's what over the past maybe 6 months, what we've been working on is just process. Not even my game as much, but just what's our process together. When we show up and it's time to play, what do we do first and what do we do last? What's the priority the night before in the hotel room? Am I stretching? What am I doing? And that's been the biggest kind of change over the past 6 months. Not really maybe a mental focus on the game, what's important, but then really just process oriented. What are we doing next?
100%. That's the thing that I think the top pros do better than anyone else in the world is sticking to a process. And you look at the guys, if there's someone grinding on their swing out there, and this is maybe other than Bryson DeChambeau, because he seems to be constantly grinding, but if someone's grinding out there on a Thursday during a tournament round, chances are you won't see them Saturday, Sunday.
And if you do, then that's their thing. It might not be anyone else's thing. That's do you finish a round that you play bad? Do you go and hit the bar, or do you go and hit 100 balls? Or because like for Kiz, maybe he goes to the bar, you know, and then maybe for someone else, like he needs to go to the range, like Spieth, and grind it out. And like, it's not saying like one of them's wrong, but it's just like, what's your biomechanical, like what are you going to respond to?
100%. Yeah. Like you just said, it's to each their own, but it's like, you need to recognize what your own is and just double down on it and say, all right, well, if it's best for me to go have 2 or 3 beers after the round and fall asleep because I'm quite tipsy, then damn it, I'm going to go do that. But yeah, if I'm the guy that needs to go, like you said, hit a large bucket before the evening goes, down to darkness, then you need to do that too. So it's all about just finding what works best for you. And it comes by repetition. Unfortunately, you can't just go out one time and put a fluke together and say it's going to work forever.
Trial and error.
That's the other maddening thing of this game, is just its constant trial and error to find, especially in a tournament golf setting, what the process should look like.
Yeah, for sure.
So now I want to get into a little bit too. You've talked about, in the past, just your love for the teaching side of things because it grows your knowledge. And something else that we saw, on Instagram of your quarantine is all the books that you've acquired and kind of, I'm sure, have read through to help yourself teach. What's maybe 1 or 2 of the books in particular that is just like, I need to read or I go back to all the time?
Yeah. So my teaching kind of gurus have been Ed Ibarguen, who is a PGA Top 100, has been for a long time. He's the director of golf at Duke, and he hired me, so I'm forever grateful for that. He has taught some phenomenal players, and he gave me probably half of those books. And then another guy, an assistant at Duke, he's way older than me. He's been teaching for 20 plus years, and he's really good buddies with Abe Answer. And
give Don a shout out.
Yeah, Donnie. No, I'm gonna give him no free clout here, but
yeah, come on, man, give him a shout out.
No, Chad Gibbs. He's the original Donnie. He's the man. He gave me the other half, and so my favorite book is probably The Pro by Butch Harmon, about his dad. So that's probably the best one, but I'll get into that in a second. The number one thing that they showed me about teaching, because I was just a good player, and I was working, and I knew I wanted to work in the golf business, but I didn't know. I was like, I want to teach, but I don't know where to start. Like, I'm personable, but what do I do now? The biggest thing was reading books like I forgot what it's called. It's by Jim Flick. It's On Golf by Jim Flick. Reading these old generational like differences in the golf swing. So back when it was really just a swing and not much of like a power like rotational move, comparing that to now, like Genghis, for example, like guys who are not doing anything with their hands and just going back and through. Like baseball players are killing it in golf right now. So like comparing those two swings, and then also how those teachers communicated those moves to their students was like the biggest thing for me.
Well, I think you hit a nail on the head there. There's teachers out there that are wanting to say the right things, and like they know what they want to teach, and they know kind of the moves that they want their players to get to, but it's all about finding, like from the golf perspective, it's all about finding that teacher that relays the information correctly, because there's so many people out there doing it different ways that, like, I always tell people, and it's like, well, I took lessons one time and it never worked. It's like, dude, all right, yeah, because the guy or girl wasn't right for you. Go try out 3 or 4 different pros, like, and like do your due diligence and research them a little bit, and see how they teach, or talk to them before you set that lesson, and see how they really relay information, because chances are you just didn't receive it the right way. And there's a lot of people doing it different ways. Like you said, Genghis is kind of really innovating some things out there on the West Coast, and I know you're quite the fan of some of the moves that he's incorporating into the swing right now.
Absolutely. I love Genghis. So probably the first time I saw him was one of my bosses showed him to me on Instagram, and I've always been like I haven't been the best at Instagram, but until recently, but I followed him and I saw like just a big difference in like, for example, like those old books, like Jim Flick, like Jack Nicklaus's coach. Like I was shown that and I was like, I don't really care about that. Like I don't want to read that. But then as soon as I see this one Instagram post of Genghis, I'm like, yo, I'm kind of interested in what he's saying. Like he makes it to where you really want to watch. So I started watching, and then I also really like how he brings like the athletic move to the game, and then he really emphasizes it. It's not really like it's cool that like I mean you need everything else, but really driving home that golf is an athlete's game too is so important to me and like everyone that I teach too.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the guys that he's kind of got like on his list, and then you just kind of look at their body shapes, and they're just pure athletes. I mean, when it comes down to it, they're guys that could step off the golf course and right onto the basketball court or right onto the to the baseball field and like not struggle at all. They're fit guys. They're very very kind of quick motion guys. So it's crazy cool to see, because that's where the game's going is like, is true athletes. And I think we're even on the tip of the iceberg of how athletic the game's going to get in another 10 to 15 years. You look at junior golf right now, and these kids are just pushing limits as athletic in the junior level too.
Yeah, 100%. So like, I think a really like interesting thing to touch on is bio swing dynamics. That's like something like a huge thing I've learned in the past 5 months. It's like, so yeah, you can choose, all right, I want to have a really like old fashioned swing. I want to set the club really early and release. Or I can be like Matthew Wolf or any of Genghis' students and be super pivot driven and really like I could go out on the baseball field right after this and hit a home run, like that kind of
just
thing.
really twisting the hips and getting them basically that, like, that's what the swing derives from, is just all hip movement.
But then like all that, the bottom line is you can only do what your body is going to allow you to do. So it's like you take my biggest piece of advice to any pro coming up or any guy that wants to teach is to research every single teacher you possibly can, whether it be, I mean, Instagram is a phenomenal resource nowadays, especially in quarantine now. I mean, even teachers who don't use it are using it now. Just look at everyone's, and you might not even agree with half of their stuff, but just watch it, see how they communicate it, and then like apply it to different students. Because I mean, if I'm teaching a 90-year-old lady, she's not going to be able to do any of Genghis' stuff.
No chance.
I mean, he might, but that's the brutal truth. And then if I'm teaching you or Lane, like, yeah, I'll be able to pick a good bit from Genghis and like really help them with their game. So it really depends.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if you have any experience with like kind of the TPI tests and stuff like that to really test your body and see where your athletic abilities are, whether it's, you're struggling in your hips or you have great flexes in like your shoulders and stuff like that. Like there's tests like that out there to like kind of get a baseline of what you can do, and then kind of just from there see what you need to work on too, because I think that's a big part that a lot of amateur golfers miss, is just like they take whatever they have as is, and they don't maybe assess or realize what the possibilities can be if they start doing certain movements, certain workouts, or just even stretches to kind of work on flexibility.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, changed in my personal, like my game over the past 6 months is I started meeting with Alex Merrill. He's a trainer for the men's and women's golf teams. And he's been gracious enough to help me out. He gave me kind of my own, I've always worked out and stuff, I've been really fit and I've always been active, but really sitting down and being like, all right, here are my goals. I want to win on tour. How do I get there from where I am now physically, not from a golf standpoint. I've got a swing coach for that. But what he always tells me, he's like, all right, I'm gonna make it to where you are your swing coach can paint a perfect picture with you. Like you're just going to be an athlete. I'm going to make you the best athlete you possibly can be. And that's where we're going now.
I love that analogy of the swing coach being able to paint the picture, because a lot of swing coaches consider the golf swing like a canvas, or, the golf game a canvas. And in order to do what they're looking to do, they need the proper tools and the proper kind of like setup for them to get the teaching mechanics in that they need to get in. So I love that analogy.
There might be like a swing coach he knows everything. But then if the only thing you're lacking from a perfect golf swing is mobility in your hips, then why wouldn't we just change the mobility in your hips instead of completely reconstructing your golf swing from scratch? It's just like,
Yeah, I think it speaks to just kind of the way the game's shifting too, because like back in the day, there was like only a few ways to teach the swing. And it was like, well, if you can't get the club here and here, then, well, I don't know what to tell you. You got to get it here and here. And now it's like, I think it's a little bit of TrackMan, a little bit of body awareness, a little bit of just improvement in overall technology to be able to kind of maybe look at more things. But it's like, you can kind of swing your swing and realize that, all right, you don't have to be precisely here to make the club square at impact. And not only that, but to really gain more distance than a lot of other players out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Matthew Wolf's probably the best example. Everyone
yeah.
When he got out of plane like this and then dropped it down.
I mean, I'll be 100% honest. When I first saw his swing and like saw how over the top and just kind of out of every place for that matter he was, I was like, all right, cool. He's having some success at college. Like in my head, I was like, yeah, good luck on tour, buddy. Like, good luck to make that sustainable. And then like very quick shoe in my mouth of that comment, because he just had so much quick success.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still got a lot to prove. You don't want to one and done it. So, he's got a lot to do. And then another, like his teammate Victor Hovland. Like he was really impressive early. What's key is to see like how these young guys buckle down with their mental game and kind of like, all right, I had a lot of success really quick out of the gate. How can I control that and kind of make it sustainable, like you said?
Yeah, I think sustainability is really what it boils down to on the tour to, obviously make a living out of it.
But the Matt Wolf thing, I kind of I liked seeing that, because it's bringing back the old school style of almost like swing your swing. It's more as like, how can we, all right, let's take what we have. Let's work out some kinks, but let's also find different ways. And like you said, like how Gankis uses for like these younger guys, how they really use the pivot, rather than like there was a period of time it almost felt as if it seemed, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but during a time frame where teachers were almost teaching the same swing, kind of that Tiger-esque swing, and everybody had to have that swing, and or they wouldn't be able to get it done. Now it's kind of the reverse aspect, to where we're going to take what we have and we're going to work on what we have, but we're also going to better the other things and get you to where you need to be.
Right, because you look at even all the greatest golfers of all time from the beginning, and you look at every golfer that's won a major championship, they've all got different swings. There's no right way to do this. It's just, what's the right way for you to do this?
I think that's so spot on. I was watching the 86 Masters rerun today, and you look at Greg Norman, you look at Jack Nicklaus. I mean, you even a little before that, his time, you look at Arnold Palmer, and just the way he kind of just took a lashing at the ball and was way out of balance more times than not, let's be honest. And, just Seve. I mean, everybody had their own unique swing, and it was just all about getting the ball to go where they wanted it. And most of those guys, they didn't hit a particularly straight ball either. They were either working it one way or the other. So, I mean, they were true masters of just making whatever swing, whatever, style they had work. They weren't conforming to a certain, pedigree of swing mechanics.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's like, that's the most interesting thing to me, is like how it's trending and how can we get ahead of it. And and kind of like you get a young kid. Like most of the guys I teach are high school kids or college kids. So, and I feel like I can closely relate to them because I mean, I was just in college and I know what they want, and I want the same thing. But like, what is their move? And then if I strike gold with one kid and I give him one piece of advice that's really resonating with him and it really fits his mold, I'm not going to go to the next kid and try to force the same thing on him. I'm going to see what's up with him first.
Yeah, that's the way you have to be. And I think, like you said, it is trending in that direction. And that's also why I think junior golf has such a great next decade in store for it, because all these kids are finally learning, like, I can just do what my body lets me do. I don't have to swing like Tiger. And that's exciting. I mean, you're seeing it with all these guys coming up, Morikawa, Wolf, Hovland, all these guys are just, they're bombers too. They're not by any means the shorter guys on tour.
Yeah, not at all. And
So
yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to see, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I got to ask, and I'm sure Lane can chime in on this too. It looks like by all Instagram purposes, you've had your time of caddying out at Sage Valley, and I want to know what that experience was like, and maybe even take us around some good stories around Sage Valley.
Awesome question. I can't wait to talk about this. So, one of our good buddies, his name's Gareth. He lives down in Augusta, and he lives probably a hard 8-iron from Augusta National. It's just like their family history, like that's where they are. Augusta keeps actually trying to buy their house from them for millions and millions of dollars, and they will not.
Wow. I was going to say, quick side note on that. I've seen, just some of they post these public acquisitions when Augusta takes over a property, and the millions on millions of dollars Augusta's paying for like trailer homes, let alone like nice houses, is just unbelievable. They want to own that whole town by the end of it.
They really do. Yeah. And they will probably. I mean, if you're it doesn't matter how far back your family history goes. Like, I mean, when they're putting that much money in your face just for a little tiny house that you're living in, you're going to take that. At least I would.
I mean, you and me both, but some people are holding on for dear life.
Yeah. But anyways, his dad is a full-time caddy at Sage Valley. So he worked at Duke for maybe a year. So I met him. He actually graduated from Central with Maine. So he moved down to Augusta. Masters week came around. I was like really trying to go to the Masters. I couldn't find tickets for shit, but I was like, can I stay at your place? And like, worst case scenario, I play some golf. Like, maybe I don't get into the Masters. He's like, yeah, come down. Then his dad puts our names down for Masters week help. So they have like just Masters week. It's like the week before and then the week of, where they can have like basically unlimited caddies. And they need all the help they can get, because all the families and friends of players are going to play there. All these celebrities are coming down. My buddy caddied for Bob Menery. Looks really Matt Ryan. Like, a lot of cool guys are playing down there. I caddied right behind my first year. I caddied behind Corey Pavin, so that was pretty good.
Classic right there.
Yeah. But the caddy house is something else.
Yeah, walk us through that a little bit, because I feel like we've had an inside view into, as Pinehurst has kind of gone viral with some of their redesigns this year. We've had an inside look at, their caddy barn through, social media. We've gotten to look inside Erin Hills, but, Sage Valley is kind of one of those places where it's like on the down low as far as everything that's inside the property. What's it like inside that caddy barn?
It is really, I've never been to Augusta National. I've never been on property, but I imagine it can't be far from that. It's like breathtaking. You walk on and you're like, I'm caddying, I'm in uniform, and I'm like, can I walk here? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? So I'm caddying for guys, and they're really cool. Like, I mostly got like high class, like businessmen who are just like on a boys trip to the Masters, and they happened to stop by Sage, and they had the money to spend. But
What a place to just happen to stop by.
Right.
yeah, no, for sure. I'm like, where's that tip at?
Yeah, right. Like that's got to be. I mean, let alone. I mean, obviously they don't have like greens fees, from what I understand, like public. But I can't imagine what your private accounts getting charged back home for a walk around Sage Valley.
I don't think we want to know. But we, in terms of the Caddie house, so you walk up, Masters Week, they have this huge food truck. And what's it called? It's like Ties.
I've never been there Masters Week.
Not Masters Week?
No, we were on fall break when I went.
It was, it's like Ties Soul Food. And it's like chicken tenders, fries, hamburgers, cheese, like all the greasiest food you can possibly get.
Just good Southern greasy food.
Just good fuel for the round, honestly.
Yeah.
You get a couple bags. You walk in there and all the full timers they're sprawled out like this, like tap on. Dude, this one guy, his name he went by Bulldog, and he had like a half handle of what's like the shittiest vodka you could possibly think of.
Or
Glad.
It was like American vodka or something.
All I can think of is Pinnacle.
Yeah, I
Ooh.
mean, just as bad or worse. Like,
Aristocrat, something like
he's
that.
just taking it in his hand, and he's like playing poker with one hand like this, and he's like putting cards, and he's just like slinging it. And I'm like, dude, it's like noon, and it's like 95 degrees. Like, what if you get a bag right now? Like, what's your plan?
That's the plan. That's exactly the plan. The plan is to have a bag, and that's how you get the best tips.
But this is, I mean, a lot of great conversations that probably are not family friendly going on in the Caddie house, obviously. But I mean, some of the best experiences ever. Met a lot of cool people, and I mean, even just carrying the bag like in a round, even if the guy's like a really bad player, like it helps my course management because I'm sitting on the tee box and they're like, where do I hit this? And I'll take it to like, all right, what if I was playing? I'm going to retrace it from the hole. I'm going to go back to my approach shot that I want, that I would be able to stick, and then back to the tee. And I'm telling him. So it's a really good practice. And then at the end of the day, you're getting a tan, you're getting some dollar bills.
Yeah, for sure. There's never a bad thing about getting some cash at the end of the day after a good loop.
100%.
Now, I got to ask, are you returning the favor? A nice little cash donation to Lane when he loops it for you, or is it more like steak dinner afterwards, or is it McDonald's?
If he earns it. Nah, we're working on it. We gotta, if we get some good earnings, then I'm giving him a good share. If not, he's getting some Mickey D's and he's getting the hell home.
Hey, I think every player caddy combo has been there before when they're on the up and up. There's been plenty of fast food stops along the way.
I told him, I was like, pay me when we get on tour. That's all I'm worried about.
That's the best way to go about it. Put your dues in now and cash in later, right?
Absolutely.
Right. I'm not gonna coocher him.
Oh, there you go.
Multi-subject.
Oof. More than 10%, a little more, a little less. We'll save that for another day. We'll let you off the hook.
Like,
No, we love that. And no, man, we really appreciate you guys both coming on. And Lane, hopefully you can keep getting him around the course and keeping him on a straight and narrow. And Nate, obviously tomorrow, great, best of luck with your match against Zane. We're pulling for you, and hope to see you continue to have great success within your game. And now, where can people reach out to find you to maybe book an online lesson or just follow along with your day-to-day life?
Yeah, in terms of lessons, just Nate Parry Golf on Instagram. That's the best way. Just DM me.
I'd spell your last name.
Yeah, Parry. Nate
Yeah,
Parry.
I'm gonna stop you real quick. You have Parr in your last name.
Yeah, I do.
Like, come on, you were meant to play golf.
I try to stay below it, but it is what it is. Yeah, it was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. But yeah, Nate Parry Golf on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I'm pretty good about reaching back out. So yeah.
Awesome, man. And yeah, guys, been an awesome time. Really appreciate it. And we hope to see you out on tour sooner rather than later, the both of you.
Yes, sir. That's the plan. Thank you for having
Hey,
us on.
also,
fellas.
before I go, my sister, I don't know how close this is. My sister just got into Maryland. So,
College Park.
yeah, so I'm going up to visit like quite a bit. And if you guys are near there.
I know I'm about like just over an hour, so we can make some things work.
Yeah, that's possible.
Awesome. I like the sounds of that. We
I can make it a drive.
Yeah, we
Easy.
definitely have some do golf in tow when we get out of this quarantine, and we'll definitely be out and about. For that, there's no doubt about that.
All right, man.
Awesome, man. Well, guys, that was Nate Parry and longtime caddy. Hopefully, well into the future as well, Lane Blalock. So, guys, thanks a lot, and enjoy the walk.
Yes, sir. Thank you, fellas. We appreciate it.
Anytime.